They're a nonprofit that I've been working with for probably 5-6 years. And Michael, you might recall at my district conference, I had a great big room that we walked into that was all devoted to the issue of human trafficking.
Mhm.
And they put on that display. But basically what they do is they create training platforms and educating different industries. So they've been working with Truckers Against Trafficking, and they have educated over 1 million in total over the last many years. And out of that have come over 600 rescues of victims that were being trafficked. They do all kinds, they're working with first responders, training platforms, but they're moving into Las Vegas, and they're working with the Wynn Hotel right now. So I'm going to connect you guys. They're two wonderful young men who are very dedicated to this, and they're very skilled in basically production of electronic tools that we use, that they're using for teaching. But I want to make an introduction at some point that's appropriate, because I think you will be connecting with them. And they're working with a task force through the law enforcement. So, so they're probably working with the same folks that you are. But I thought, especially what you're planning with your forum that you plan for the fall, or however that's going. So I'll introduce you, Michael, via email. I've told them about you folks and what you're doing. So I think there could be a great partnership there as you move forward.
Okay, so they're just coming into Vegas. Okay, and you said they're working with the Wynn Hotel?
Right, and they hope to work with other hotels, so they're focusing on that industry right now to develop training programs for the employees, basically on, what the issue is, how to spot something that might be suspicious, how they should handle that, et cetera. But they're working with local law enforcement on this. So anyway, I think they would be a good partner somewhere for you folks. And so I was waiting to just share that with you, and then I will go ahead and make an introduction.
Yes, I would appreciate that.
And again, I'm going to have to depart about 20 after. I will just listen to you folks. I have to get on our club, our human trafficking new club, cause-based club meeting. And we're always in conflict because they start at 5:30. So I will quietly depart around 5:20. And then there's another thing going on that I've thought about inviting to you too, Michael, except I don't want you to get overwhelmed. But we are planning for the Zone Institute for 2022. I'm on the committee that they have selected 5 topics that they're going to do special summits for leading up to the Zone Institute. The date's not for sure yet, but they've put human trafficking on this list. So we have a committee. Do you remember Bob Deering? Have you ever met Bob Deering from California?
No.
He's out of Sacramento. Anyway, they did a global grant, huge global grant on creating a preventative education that's been accepted into the schools in California with 3 strands, the nonprofit 3 strands, and they're all up in Sacramento. But anyway, so this committee includes the chair of the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery, the international group, and anyway, we will be putting on a forum. It looks like what we're asking for is on the human trafficking issue in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, again, this is the Zone Institute, so it covers Rotarians in the Western United States.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably be a hybrid of virtual and, we're hoping that people can attend, that will be open back up again. And likely it'll be a year from this fall. Possibly we're requesting September or October.
So September of 22?
Right. Yeah. And I'll keep you posted on that. And when you feel like you might have a second, I'll invite you to join and, listen. You can attend one of our meetings and see if there's a synergy anywhere there too for you folks.
Okay. Yeah. I appreciate you putting me on the invite list and see if that will. I'm really interested in this. I empathize.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one is. Yeah.
They're really great. The first time that it just grabbed me, I walked into an exhibit that they had at Loyola Marymount University, and they had an exhibit of little shoes that were honestly, one pair of shoes was about 3 inches long. It belonged to a victim. Anyway, they're very, very, lot of visual arts and how they put it together. They use all the different mediums. And anyway, they're very talented guys and very dedicated to this issue.
I thought about, because our club in Summerlin, we are a peace builder club. And having taken the course on positive peace, trying to create an environment where these children would feel safe and thrive. I think it really dovetails with the whole peace initiative too.
No question.
We include that action group and other people who are interested in that. I think it could work.
Yeah, there's definitely, in my district, there's another past district governor who's been on the peace trail, and she and I walked the path together, and then she's stayed on the peace trail, and I've kind of carved out, the human trafficking issue and the child sex trafficking issue, but we still walk hand in hand. And I just can't be as active with them anymore now that so much is, really bubbling here on human trafficking.
I love
Roger, isn't something you're looking at for pets in 22 or 23?
I'm sorry, Mike.
Is this something you're looking at doing for pets, either in 22 or 23?
Well, my pets is in February of 22.
Yeah.
Okay, and no, they have not. We do this twice a month now, the Southwest Pets meeting, and we've been planning the agenda and all the information that we're putting together. It's quite a project. Yeah, I've been part of it.
Is this something that could be included?
I am having a meeting Thursday on this, and if Cassette could be so kind as to shoot me some information on that, I'll present it to the group.
Okay, so I thought, Roger, let's see. I have to get my head straight on this. The next pets is your pets.
Correct.
And I was under the impression, I've got to get the years straight, that your governor class was choosing this issue as one of the issues that was going to be highlighted. Am I wrong about that?
There are several issues that they're going to be highlighted. And if you talk about human trafficking as a one subject, they keep changing the subject matter. And I think it's inclusive in 2 or 3 issues they're combining at one time. And I think Anita, my classmate in Arizona, is the one that has that as her subject for her general session, I believe. So I'll have to go back and confirm that. I don't have the.
Okay, so Roger, we'll connect offline and see Because I know that I've been invited in, but I'll have to go back and look at that carefully. I'm doing a couple of things for your pets, but, and maybe I've got the wrong year, but I thought you guys were focusing too on this issue. Anyway, I'll get in touch with you separately.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you further about this. Maybe I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Would that be good, Roger?
Certainly.
Okay, I'll reach out to you tomorrow and we'll talk about it a little bit more since you got your meeting on Thursday.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So this Zone Institute will occur, Roger, during your year, because your year is 21, 22, correct?
22, 23.
Oh, okay.
July 1st.
Yes, you're right. So this will fall,
February. Yeah.
this Zone Institute will be your Zone
Correct.
Institute during your governor year.
That's
So,
in Tucson, and it's in person in November.
yes.
November of 22?
No, November
No.
this year, this November.
Oh, this November.
Okay, so I'm talking about the following year.
Okay, Vicky, I just come off a Zoom meeting with Vicky Pulitz, who had the whole, all 30 of us on Zone here. And they're talking about that to be, you mentioned September, October. She was talking possibly November. So there were different dates thrown around.
Yeah, I think Tucson is next, but then this Texas follows that, I believe. I think we're in Houston, and that's the year I'm talking about.
Well, Houston is international. Are you talking about international, or because the institute that I'm talking about this year is not international? It's just the
Right.
Pacific Great West or whatever. Houston
And that's November 21, and I'm talking about November of 22.
Okay.
So anyway, we'll get it all straightened out. I know there's so many things that
too many days, too many events going on and flying around there. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, let's bring back to, we're talking about the, in the fall, the Child Sex Trafficking Awareness Symposium on October 19th at TPC Summerlin. I'd like to put together tonight the focus of that particular symposium. We have the guests. We have Christina Vella, who's the CEO of St. Jude's Children's Ranch here in Boulder City. And again, this is not affiliated with the St. Jude's that we hear about. Judge William Voy, who works with these type of cases. Rick is working on confirming a speaker from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And we have Kathleen Call, who is from Hope Church and a survivor. And so we're looking at this as being about 90 minutes, or actually an hour, excuse me, an hour for the exact forum. So what do we want people to leave once they have after the forum? What do we want them to leave with?
Awareness.
Awareness. Okay. Awareness. Okay. And awareness of what?
Well, I mean, I don't know if this relates, but I mean, like, so I walk every morning, 2 miles every morning. So while I'm out walking, I see all these little kids, they're all by themselves. They're not with parents, or like the parents are walking with some of the kids and the other kids are riding ahead or running ahead. And it's like, I mean, do they not understand that it's a quick snatch and grab? I mean, it makes me so nervous because there's cars going up and down the street and they could just grab these kids in 2 seconds flat, and the parents would never even know what happened to them by the time they get to the end of the corner. And I mean, I just think that's so important. It's sad that you have to tell people that we live in a world like this, but.
Yeah, I just came back from a trip to Mexico, and my little cousin's 4-year-old, they were in a department store, and he has a tendency to run off and hide. And he
Mhm.
hid in the linen department in one of those little cubbies where they put pillows and things. And they had the whole store out looking for him. And he thought it was so funny. And they were scared to death because they've got
Mhm.
kidnapping all over the place down there.
And I mean, don't we have the highest rate of trafficking? Isn't Vegas the highest rate of trafficking?
We're one of the highest, yeah.
But I
Actually,
think,
Los Angeles is ahead of you, San Diego's ahead of you, San Francisco's ahead of you. That's not a great thing,
no, of
but
course,
Las Vegas is in that loop between Seattle even and San Francisco and LA and San Diego. So, I mean, it ends up connecting, no question. But of course, you're a much smaller city than Los Angeles, but still, the
just a
problem
huge
is huge.
problem. And it's sad that we have to tell people or parents, you know, but I mean, unfortunately, this is the world we live in. And but I mean, all the people that live, and we live in a really nice neighborhood, and all the people around here, I mean, it's just like, I just don't understand why they don't get that. You know, I mean,
Yeah. It
Two
doesn't
things-
matter what
neighborhood.
neighborhood you live in.
yeah, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it can be
But I just
Summerlin.
think that they
it-
think
yeah.
because it's a nice neighborhood that maybe, you know, that's not going to happen to them, you know?
And two things before I have to jump off that
Mm.
Kate has mentioned here. You know, the vulnerable population is one thing, children who are already in neglected situations or have suffered sexual abuse or domestic violence in the home, et cetera, vulnerable populations. But same thing, Kate, when I walk around my neighborhood and I'm seeing the swings out in the front yard advertising that a child lives here, I worry about that. But also for even older children, social media and the internet is where we think we've got children who are really not from a vulnerable population, but they are being lured through the internet, through social media. And so awareness is critical. I mean, it is number one. There are lots of other things, but it is number one, not only to warn, but also just to get, and my little mantra, and then I'm probably going to get off, is I tell folks whenever I speak on this, you know, it's so overwhelming. You say, what can I possibly do to help? If nothing else, if every day you speak to somebody and talk about this issue, raise the issues, spread the word. And if we all got to talking, now there's a lot more to do, but you know, if people really were interested in helping, an easy thing to do is just share it with somebody every day.
Okay.
So is our target audience parents?
Well, yeah, I would think so. I mean, but I think that a lot of parents, and I don't mean this unkindly, just think, you know, I don't want to use the word ignorant, but they're just unaware of the fact that it can happen on the street. I think that they only think it happens through internet. Like if, you know, the kids are on the wrong site or something like that, and they're getting lured from the internet. And I don't think they realize that they can just get
Right.
trafficked and snatch and grab when they're walking down the street.
Yeah.
Well, you
So,
about
when
these
I-
to school with a puppy or something.
Hmm.
Yeah. So summarizing this awareness, some things I got down here: dangers of being kidnapped, vulnerable population because of sexual abuse or other abuse in the family, signs of children living there,
Mhm.
dangers of social media, and where you live doesn't matter.
No, but I think that parents think that, you know, well, I live in a nice neighborhood. No, nothing can happen here. You
Well,
know,
that's part of the awareness, is to let people know that because you live in even a gated area, people can get into gated
exactly. It happens
communities.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So even if you live in an exclusive community, you know, this can happen there.
absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I
No,
think the other awareness is parents paying attention to their children and what
Yes.
their children are doing. We had a Rotarian of our club who contacted me, and he was asking me that he had been looking at his daughter's cell phone, and he noticed that she had some apps on there. And how many parents take a look at their children's phones or iPads or whatever they have and see what type of apps they have and also what social media and what they're saying.
Well, and stop letting the phone and the internet be their babysitters,
well,
you know?
So we got here-
And don't let them go to bed with those devices.
Right,
mhm,
exactly.
Put it's being recommended that those devices be kept taken away at night. It's time to go to bed. And the devices go down in the kitchen or whatever it is,
mhm.
Anyway, folks, I wish I could stay with you. I love what you're doing and appreciate so much your interest and dedication to this. I do have to go to another
Okay.
meeting about this issue. So thanks.
Thank you, Cosette. Have a good night.
Thank you,
To
Cosette.
you.
We'll be in touch.
Sure.
And yeah, Roger, we'll get in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we just added another one, the dangers of cell phones, tablets, all those type of devices.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing, the topics we just hit, is
Mhm.
that they're not top of mind. And just like Cosette said about having a swing or a basketball hoop or whatever,
A bike in a yard,
a
anything like
bike
that.
in the yard,
I mean, that's an advertising.
anything that, they don't know that these could be, unfortunately, in this time, they could be signs of danger, but also just because of what we learned from Kimberly, especially with the social media and cell phones and tablets, that's how she got connected.
Right.
And that's how most probably kids today get connected with trafficking, is through those methods. So I guess parents being more diligent.
Yes. Aware.
And yeah.
And I think that I've never been a parent, of course, but I think that it's kind of awkward for parents sometimes with privacy issues. They feel like their children deserve privacy, but that privacy can be what does them in.
Yeah. And I mean, I used to tell my sister, stop trying to be your kid's best friend. Why don't you just be their mom? And she's like, well, what do you know? You've never had kids. And it's like, well, I was a kid. Just because I don't have kids, I was a kid once. So yeah, I think that's another problem, that parents just want to be their best friends.
Well, yeah, but I think part of the parental responsibility, particularly for kids like this Rotarian who I talked to, is what their kids are doing with their devices. And I think that's where parental responsibility has to come in. Privacy, until they get more mature, has to be much different than when they're over 18.
Right.
They just not, when they're young, they're not able to make the right decisions or appropriate decisions. And it's easy for them to get lured into situations that they may not realize are going to be dangerous for them. And that's where parents have to intervene.
Right.
When all of us grew up, we didn't have to worry about this type of stuff. We didn't have that. And our parents weren't that concerned, but I think parents have to be not only diligent, but they have to be responsible more than ever. And so I think maybe that's another one, is monitoring use of these devices.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to know that in our city, in Las Vegas, we're a 24/7 town. A lot of these children are totally unsupervised at night because their mom and dad are working.
Right.
So that means that if they're being, so that's another issue, if they're being, let's say, quasi watched by, let's say, an older sibling, or maybe
a neighbor,
a family neighbor. And I'm going to probably not be off base that probably a lot of these kids are not even supervised. Mom or dad goes off to work, and even if they're 10, 11, 12, you're going to be sleeping, whatever, and and here's a next door neighbor or somebody's phone number if there's a problem.
Right.
But the problem is that if they're kidnapped, it's unfortunate.
Exactly.
There's nothing that they can do without a responsible adult. And so I don't know how that's a thorny subject right there.
Well, it is, but I think that the parents could have tools to make their children aware of what to do if something bad does happen to them when they're alone.
Yeah. But the way you read stories, Linda, they open up a screen. Some of these people I've seen, they just grab the kid. And if there's no parent at home or adult, and the kid could be screaming, there's nobody there to pay attention to the scream unless you have a neighbor who might be,
Yeah.
there and aware or interested, whatever term you want to use.
I'm kind of wondering how we attract parents to our forum, because I think, Kate, like you said, a lot of these parents are going to think, well, that doesn't apply to me. I live I live in Mountain's Edge and it's really nice. And
it never happens to me. It happens to somebody else, kind of, a mentality. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. It can happen anywhere to anybody at any time. So, but no parent wants to be told how to parent their child either. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like you have to kind of approach it gingerly, or
Well, you can back into it by saying that probably 90% of the kids who are trafficked come from the local area. Mm. And I think that's also part of it. I think parents have the naive view that all the trafficking takes place on the strip.
Right.
And either they bring in kids from out of places, mm-hmm. as we've learned, and they don't. The parents don't know that. No. And that, so maybe that's part of the awareness, is to make them aware that most of the children that are trafficked are locals, they're not imported.
That's a good point, Michael.
I thought they were brought in. I had in mind all these little Asian or Mexican kids coming in.
I know. I originally thought that too, because that's what you see on the Lifetime Channel movies, and stuff like that. They're brought in. So that's
probably, maybe that should be the main theme, is that the most trafficked kids are local, something like that.
Yeah. It's all under the umbrella of awareness.
Yeah. So maybe what we advertise or from when we market, maybe we focus on that most children that are trafficked, sex trafficked, come from your community.
What if we would have some kind of a hook, like the 5 top things to look for in your home to avoid sex trafficking?
Yeah, that's good.
That's good. Like, top 5 things.
Something that they expect to go home with. Okay, I'm going to go home from this seminar and I'm going to know what kind of apps I should look for on my kid's phone. Right. I'm going to telltale signs of behavior from children who are being approached.
Okay, so I'm going to signs of behavior.
Know some resources of who to turn to get some help if I think it might be happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
It's some new or expensive things that the child suddenly is in possession, that the sex traffickers are buying for them.
Yes.
And, as a parent, ask, where did you get this from?
Right.
Your $1 a week allowance ain't going to pay for this one. Mm-hmm. Where are you getting it from? So number 1, pay attention to the kid.
Yeah,
in their bedroom.
Yes, the behavior of the child that might exhibit that they're having some trouble.
Yeah, but of course, go back to like what Kimberly said. She would do her thing and then sit down and have dinner with mom and dad had no clue what was happening between 3 and 6 or whatever time.
Yeah.
And I wonder, well, Rick maybe could address how many parents are totally oblivious that their kids come home from school, they go out and do this, and they sit down and have dinner and as if nothing happened.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and-
Know who
and-
your kids' friends are too as well. They suddenly
Mhm.
come up with a good friend who's that male or female adult, then start questioning about how do you know this person?
Mhm.
What is your relationship with this person? Are they nice to you? Do they talk to you? Well, what do they talk about?
So awareness of relationships.
That's exactly what it is.
And-
Well,
and-
You want to find out what the relationship is.
I know even as a single female, I have all these random people reach out to be my friend on Facebook and
Right.
different approaches. They might have a grandchild or a dog or a chest full of army medals. And sometimes I hear from women, it just, and then you pull up their profile and there's nothing there.
Exactly. Delete,
Well,
delete, delete.
So I think you could even look at who your children are friends with on social media.
Mhm. But also with relationships, we're thinking about strangers. Remember you say stranger danger? But
Right.
sometimes the relationships could be with your brother
Mhm.
or grandparent or
Uncle.
a next door neighbor, somebody who you think is an upstanding person
And normal.
and normal is actually
Yeah. Oh, so
I
sick.
learned through Linda that and I guess it goes back about 20 years that I guess we had a Rotarian.
Yes, we
Maybe-
did. No, Tom Novotny. Yes, we did.
who got picked up for this. So again, you would think, quote, that a Rotarian is supposedly a respected member of the community. Yeah.
It was not Tom Novotny.
It was not. No. This particular guy had a teenager about close to the same age as the one he was trying to pick up.
Yeah.
So we had a 13-year-old daughter and he was trying to pick up a 13-year-old. Well, that's even creepier.
Yeah, it is creepy.
It's all creepy.
Yeah, but especially when somebody, yeah. And that's another thing is that a lot of the traffickers are not what people would consider, quote, perverts.
No,
These are not the people that are on the, what is it, the sex,
the list
on the sexual predator list.
Mhm.
Most of these people, at
But-
least,
thing that parents can do. And Rick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can pull up a list yourself of predators who live in your area.
Mhm.
yeah, that you can do. But the thing is that a lot of the people who do the trafficking are not on the predator list this time, unless they get busted. And then they show up
Right.
on the list.
But I noticed Kimberly put on her Facebook that her attacker is now has a job in Reno working with young people.
Oh, great.
Ew,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
Well,
Oh,
course.
don't they check the background?
I don't know, maybe he was never convicted.
Oh, that could be.
see,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, this is another thing. It's sort of like a silent crime, because or maybe it's not an open crime, meaning you don't hate to use the word prostitution, but we use a prostitute stands out on the street corner. These kids don't, they use the social media, but you have to be on top of it in order to know
You know,
what the
That's the point, Michael, because Kimberly drove this home.
Yeah.
A child cannot really be a prostitute because they don't have the capabilities of making those decisions.
Mm.
And I think that some parents who know that their children are in trouble might hesitate to get help because they think their child will be convicted of something.
well, the child won't be.
Well,
mean-
in some cases they are.
But that's
and-
probably rare.
And then we also learned through her that a lot of the offenders are never convicted or never charged.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, that goes back to what we just talked about, the sex predator list. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's a lot. So I think we'll have to kind of pare this down and target
Yeah.
maybe just up to 5 different things and cover those well.
okay.
Michael,
So,
can I interject one thing?
Yeah, go ahead,
of course,
Roger.
I'm coming from Southern California, but there's been exposure. I have 2 grandsons that are special needs. They're autistic. And I have been told not too long ago, about a few months ago, since they've been shut down mostly, they're starting to open back up now. And they have suspected predators around the school for the classes for special needs.
Mhm.
These are light autistic, they're not the severe end of the spectrum, but that has all of a sudden come to my attention, and it was something that I just recalled to bring up. So I don't know if that's an issue or have any dealings with that in Clark County, but I do know in LA County and Riverside County, it is an issue.
Yeah. Well, I think you just brought up a point, right? I think there's almost 2 types. There's the violent offender who really is interested in kidnapping the kid off the street and violating,
Yeah.
violating him or her, and maybe even horribly murdering the child. But then you got the other group who's really just wants to have the sexual relationship with the child and is not interested in hurting the child, physically, but just doing the deed and that's it.
So the
And
passive predator,
what?
name of them,
What you say that again, please?
they're
Rick?
passive predator.
Okay.
Predator. And then I think we also have the predator who is in a position of authority. So
Yeah.
that my teacher or a school bus driver or a clergy person or the head of the Boy Scouts and the kids might be afraid to tell anybody.
Well, that's another point then. Of course, we got a big list, but we'll put it on the list. How do you communicate with your child that it's okay to tell me that, I was molested by whatever?
Or that they saw one of their little friends
Yeah.
too. But it's a fine line because kids also sometimes make things up. So do adults.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, remember there was the case probably about 20 years ago at that daycare center down in Manhattan Beach, where the kids allegedly said that the daycare people were molesting them.
Yeah, that was
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Yeah, and it found out that they all were lying.
Right.
Yeah, Woods was in the movie.
Yeah, they were all lying, and yeah, I mean, or they were being prompted on what to say.
Right, by the investigators.
Yeah, or maybe the kids were lying, but they were, yeah, and the whole thing, yeah, even though the people's lives are totally ruined, there's nothing that you can do once they are outed, whether or not they did it, whatever.
Do you think it would be worth it to, if at this seminar, have some little thing like a magnet that parents could put on the refrigerator with some helpful
Yeah,
or places to read?
Yeah, I like that, Linda. That's a good idea.
yeah, we can do that. Refrigerator magnet.
We could co-brand that with some of the different sponsors that are involved and give them a little play, but just to have it in one central place. That who do I call in the police department? Where do I get help?
Now, one of the other things we had talked about, I'm going to follow that up, is to do an app. And I was going to talk to one of our members, Diane Zapic, who's at UNLV. Now, she's not in this area, but she might be able to point me to somebody in IT.
It sounds this new nonprofit group that Cosette is bringing to the party may have resources for that too.
The I empathize. Yeah, that's a good point too. To maybe, if it's not that, I don't know, I have no idea what it takes to put together an app or the cost or anything. But if it isn't too much out of line in terms of budget, maybe that's something that we're able to launch at this meeting. Again, I have no idea how long it takes to put it together.
It's certainly worth surveying the people who attend the seminar to see if they would be interested in something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have to be free or would they be willing to pay for it?
I think it would have to be free, because that would be the incentive. If it's something they have to pay for, they probably wouldn't. You know, if it's a free app, yeah, they wouldn't. They probably wouldn't pay. But at least I like the refrigerator magnet idea. That could at least be something we can put key phone numbers that they could use to contact if they have problems. Yeah.
I've got some information on Lieutenant Matchko. He's wants to come to our June 22 meeting, and he has a presentation already that he will present, then with a question and answer period afterwards.
You know, I think sounds great.
June 22.
I was going to devote that meeting to kind of celebrating our
Down by now.
He sounds like a great speaker.
Well, you want to move ahead with that?
Let's do that.
Okay, so
June
we'll move ahead
22
with
is
that.
good?
Rick. Yeah.
Okay, and I need to know, do we have a any type of a setup for his PowerPoint presentation?
Yes,
Like
we
the
do.
camera and so forth. Do we have that?
We have
Yeah.
all that. Yes.
Would be
Okay,
at
good. I'll let him know that we already have that. He just
Yeah.
needs to come and bring his materials
Yeah. Yeah. He
and
just needs to bring a
I've
thumb drive.
be there at 7:15.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
Linda,
Matchko is
you're
one
gonna
of the
be there
people we're
next to
looking
him?
at for the forum in
Matchko?
October.
Who's going to be in office of president at that time?
Yeah, I'll be the president and we'll set that up and he'll be at our live in-person breakfast meeting at TPC.
What's the
Okay, I'll
date?
let him know it's a go then for June 22.
June
Right.
20 That's our
And
first.
we have the video equipment, so he doesn't have to bring it. We'll
No.
take care of all that because he has an actual presentation that he does.
Okay.
And
Set up and ready.
just tell him that we'd want the presentation to be about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, what about question and answer afterwards?
Well, if it's 15 minutes, we'd probably have at least 5 minutes for questions. Would they all tend to go long? So I tell them a little shorter than maybe they would have.
Okay, I'll let him know.
And
Right?
yeah. And so, yeah, just have him bring a thumb drive or whatever, and we can just hook it into the computer. And that's not a problem. We can do the presentation. Okay. So, yeah, the lieutenant is in charge of the what is it? I'm trying to remember the exact title that I gave you. Remember the title, Rick? I can't remember the exact title, but he's in charge of the area that goes after sex crimes.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he's in charge of also the gang unit and human trafficking.
Yeah. Oh, it's Vice.
That's his two jurisdictions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Vice and gangs.
I don't know how he handles them both. The gang unit would be alone would be
I would-
enough, as well as sex trafficking alone would be enough.
Mm-hmm.
So he must have some pretty good staff underneath him.
It would have to, yeah. Well, two
Yeah.
different types of staff, really, because one who specializes in gangs and the other one who specializes in the sexual assault area.
Yeah, the gang is Las Vegas is relatively new. And it's been started about 15 years ago. And that we used to live in Los Angeles, started moving up into Las Vegas, hence the graffiti, hence the gangs.
Great.
Do we have any of the M13?
M13.
Those are the really dangerous gangs from Central
Yeah.
America?
Yeah,
think
the
any
word
of them look good.
Salvadorania means
Yeah.
Salvadorian death is what it is.
Yeah.
But Las Vegas is kind of a hot area for them. They have a tendency to lay low in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to mix it up with our metro.
Mm. I noticed that the Metro has been, I guess, showing greater presence on the Strip.
Yes,
I
they
noticed that.
have. Once again, because of that which lives in Los Angeles, coming up here on weekend
That called us out on
and
the,
raising hell on the Strip.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know there was that time when they opened up very small, and they had a lot of they had the hotel rooms at almost nothing, and they had a lot of shootings and other violence on the Strip.
Yeah, just to show an example, whenever I go down the Strip and so forth, I make sure that I have my 15 friends with me.
Yeah. Well, and of course, the Strip is something like any place that tourists attract. Tourists don't pay attention.
Correct, exactly. You know, people going down. And the ones that are getting these shootings generally know each other.
Uh-huh.
It's even more interesting. They get into petty disputes of some sort and wind up, one shooting another. But oftentimes, they know each other and get into these disputes and are
But on
armed,
the other hand, there's
armed
also,
illegally, always illegally.
yeah. But then there's also, unfortunately, the collateral damage. They might shoot at one of their friends, but miss and hit somebody who's a bystander who has nothing to do with this.
That'd be
Yeah.
my luck.
They could really care less if they kill somebody else.
Yeah.
Really not concerned about that.
Remember they had that incident at Wynn?
At where?
Yeah.
At Wynn
On the
Resort?
wind? Yeah.
They had that, which is something I don't think we've ever seen, especially at that hotel.
When the hotel opened up, like you said, the rates were so low
that's
that
it,
people were coming.
attracted the riffraff.
Mhm.
I am sorry, I'm gonna have to click off too. I've got somebody coming in a few minutes.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to? I think we pretty much have gone most everything. I will do up this list. We'll send it out and we'll have each of you prioritize it, and we'll come up maybe with the top, 4 or 5,
Cool.
and maybe, and then focus on those. And I'll look at the magnet. Yeah. In fact, interesting, I was talking to another Rotarian who has a advertising specialty company, because they're looking at him to do something else for me that I will also ask him about doing, see what this would cost.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
very-
perfect.
Okay,
Okay,
Right.
Michael.
And
okay,
Tomorrow, Michael, because I got to run too. I got another meeting to go to.
okay, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then I know you're in a little ways, but again, if you have time to come to Vegas on the 22nd, we're gonna have this great speaker in the morning.
I
Yeah.
will let him know.
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
Okay.
Let him know.
thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.